Hey, good evening, everybody. How you guys doing tonight? Hope you guys had an outstanding weekend. I know mine was a bit adventurous. We had some storms coming through central Wisconsin, and well, that's a story for another day. But I want to welcome you guys here once again to the Wisconsin Conservative Conversations. We're gonna, as we do each and every time that we put these broadcasts together, we want to bring forth to you candidates throughout the state, statewide candidates, local candidates, and the message here is we want to get their messaging out there, get what it is that they're coming out here for. One of the things that I found most important throughout all these conversations is the overall message of the conservative movement. And I think, while traditional media does a good job, I think we can serve a purpose a little bit better by giving you a more human aspect of the candidate, talking to them one on one in a conversational format. And as you've seen with past guests, Rebecca Clayfish, Adam Steen, Robin Voss, Karen Mueller, we've had a lot of different guests on here, and we will continue to have more. As a matter of fact, tonight is David Estenson. He's going to beat me up if I don't say that right. But I'm going to have Eric Tony back on, Timothy Rantham. We're going to have him on, and a few others here. So, yes, the primaries keep going, but you know what? We have a general election. So, without further ado, let's bring our guests on here tonight. And as I bring them on, I got to tell you guys this little story first. You ever talk to somebody and you guys just hit it off right away? And it's jokes, it's serious topics, it's hey, there's certain similarities, there's a lot of different things. And when I have the opportunity, I have a lot of candidates that give me calls and we talk and they're great conversations. Dave's an interesting cat because it was, do I know you from somewhere?
I think so. We must have met somewhere, but
Yeah,
either that or we're just two alike. We're two peas.
that can be very scary. It's yeah, we have nothing can go wrong there. But
No, no.
Dave Estenson is our guest tonight, and he is running for Wisconsin State Senate. I was going to say State Senate Assembly. No, State Senate for the 31st District here in Wisconsin, Western Wisconsin, and we're going to get to know him tonight. So, Dave, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Ed. It's great to finally see you in person rather than just talking on the phone.
It's the funniest thing with social media. You connect with people, and I think that's good. It's another thing to actually talk to them, but seeing someone, this isn't as good as the in person, but we're going to get to that soon enough because,
Yep.
I'm sure we got victory parties that we're going to be planning for here pretty soon. We got a big red wave that we're anticipating, but as a friend of mine said, we can be confident, but we cannot be complacent. It's a big
Correct.
deal.
Absolutely correct.
So I want to jump into this here and kind of learn a little bit about you because you have a very, very interesting how do they say it here? I'm going to get up into here for a moment. Curriculum vitae, a resume, as it were.
Ooh,
I was pretty good. Don't ask me to spell it though.
I I like that.
Curriculum vitae, but you have a very interesting and diverse background because you have a background in law enforcement. You're
Yep.
a business owner.
Mhm.
Kind of, walk us through what your background is and what it is that you do. What makes you that person that we see before us here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, So we'll start at the beginning. I'm a fifth generation Whitehall area resident. So Whitehall is located in Trumbull County. If you look on a map, um, Eau Claire and La Crosse are about north and south of each other.
Yes.
Whitehall's right in the middle.
Okay.
So we are in the hills of in the heart of dairy country, the Dairyland down here. So I'm fifth generation Whitehall area resident. My great great grandparents emigrated from Norway, so I'm 50% Norwegian. So and that's the big ethnicity in the area. They all congregated in this area because it reminded them of
Okay.
Norway with the hills. So
That would make sense.
um,
Okay.
absolutely. And so I actually grew up in the city of Whitehall. My dad was the chief of police there when I was growing up, and they made him live in town. So I grew up in the city, but I'll tell you, as soon as I could, I started working on a farm. like everybody else, like all my friends. I grew up milking cows on a dairy farm just outside of town. And after school, I did a few different things. Um, I was a cattle buyer and hauler for a while. I had that ag background. Um,
Yeah,
actually,
we kind of need some eggs right about now. It's getting a little ridiculous out
we
there.
need some ag, yeah. Um, so I had a friend of mine in high school that rode bareback horses, broncs in the rodeo, and he actually got me into it. I was actually a bull rider for 3 years, so I did
Really?
that. Yeah, I did that. That's, you see me wearing the cowboy hat sometimes.
All the
That,
time, yes.
yeah, that's no costume. It's funny.
That's awesome.
Everybody asked me, the show Yellowstone is so popular right now.
Yes.
Um, Everybody asked me, "Oh, do you like Yellowstone?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I am a fan. However, the hat's about 25 years older than the show." So,
It's like,
so
no, this is not a fad here, guys. This
yeah,
is the
no,
real authentic deal.
that's exactly right. Yeah, and I even got I got a steel rod, or a titanium rod in my right femur for as a souvenir. That's always fun at the airport. So, um, and then I kind of figured it was time to settle down, and I ended up going into the family business. I went back to school and I became a police officer. So 2001, I started working as a police officer in the small towns in Trempealeau County. I got full time in 2002, and then in 2006 I met my wife, who had just came out of school for law enforcement, and she got a job with Hennepin County Sheriff's Office up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, as a 911 dispatcher.
Okay.
So I followed her up in 2007. I was became a deputy sheriff with the Wright County Sheriff's Office. Was there for another 6 years, and in right at the end of 2012, beginning of 2013, I decided that it was time to follow my other dream of being a business owner. So I had prior experience in the trucking industry as a truck driver for a friend of mine. I met the right people, I had the right contacts, and I ended up buying a truck. I I figured out, I saw the culture of law enforcement today coming. I could see that about 10 years ago coming, and I just knew it was the right time to do it. So I bought a truck. I retired from the sheriff's office, and I took out my state retirement and bought a second truck, and it's been away we go.
Been expanding and everything ever
Yep,
since. Now,
exactly.
now you mentioned that you saw at that time a
hmm
change in law enforcement culture.
hmm
What type of changes are you talking about there?
The it's the culture shift away from appreciating law enforcement. um and blaming cops first. That's always been, it's always been there, but pretty subtle. And I'll tell you that I remember the first incident that really opened my eyes to where this was all going and where it was going to go downhill. It was when President Obama made the "we don't know all the facts, but obviously the police acted stupidly"
I
comment.
remember that. Yes.
Yeah, that, and it wasn't long after that the Ferguson debacle
Mhm.
went down, and and the way that the administration and the higher levels of government reacted to that and made it worse. It was only going to get worse after that.
Right.
hmm
So with being and you said the Minneapolis area there?
Yes, yeah. I was just west of Minneapolis.
So being just west of there, I would imagine that the suburbs of that area is no different than say if you were going to the Milwaukee area, very metropolitan, very, urban.
Yep.
Um, at that time, were you seeing a rise in organizations like BLM, a lot more anti-police rhetoric from just the public, or is it more of a on the political side of things
It
in that region?
at that time it was more of the political stuff.
Mhm.
I did not. That was before BLM. I was already out of law enforcement, and I moved back home to Wisconsin.
Right.
Um, yeah, but when BLM really really came up. But yeah, it was more of the political stuff. I knew that political rhetoric would eventually lead to where we're at now.
Right.
Hmm.
That's it. And it's an interesting shift that you did going from being a law enforcement officer. And thank you for your service on that, by the way.
Thank you.
I always notice too when people are like, hey, I was a cop. Oh, that's cool, man. That's tell me some more stories. Hey, I was in the Marine Corps, but I didn't do anything, which is like my case. Like I was in the Marine Corps, I got stationed in Hawaii. He's like, thank you for your service. Dude, I hung out like on the beach when I was done at work. You don't thank me for anything. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Like
It-
you just hang out.
and
But a lot of people forget about, law enforcement, first responders, firefighters. I
hmm
mean, you
hmm
have to have that mentality
Yeah.
of when things are going sideways, bullets are coming down range, you're
hmm
going into it. That's the
Yep.
training. And it's an interesting transition going from LEO to owner operator of a
hmm
trucking industry. Well, how did that transition take place?
Well, and real quick, let me back up. Like you said,
Yeah.
you're trained to go at to take the bullets on in the front, and you really are. They train you how to handle that mentally, physically, tactically. Um, and I've always said it's not the bullets from the front that really scare you, that can really, obviously they can kill you physically, but it's the bullets from behind.
Yes.
It's the administration leaving you hung out to dry on these issues, that somebody makes a mistake, and
Hmm.
it's a mistake, but now all of a sudden you're paying for it with your life. Those are the things that they cannot prepare you for.
Right.
And I feel so bad for some of the people that are in right now. I have so many friends. They've got too many years to just leave, and not enough years to retire, and they're stuck.
So they're caught right between that
Yep.
spot, and it's
Hmm.
for most people, it's another profession, and yeah,
Yep.
you're talking a long time,
That's a
and
long
that's
time.
unfortunate.
It
That is
is.
unfortunate.
It is. You see, when I moved up to Minnesota, my years of service, you have to have 25 years in to get vested in the state retirement system.
Mhm.
And when I moved from the Wisconsin system to the Minnesota system, those years of service reset. So even though I had 12 years in, which would have put me in that time frame of too many years to just quit and not
Mhm.
enough to retire, they reset. So it was 6 years. It made the decision a little bit easier, um, you know,
Right.
to go a different direction.
So then, now you transition to being an owner operator of a trucking company.
Hmm.
That had to give you a pretty good perspective on one side, you're definitely dealing with the worst segments of society, but
Uh-huh.
yet on another, now you're seeing things, from all regions of the state, and depending on how far you may have driven,
All 48.
you're going full blown OTR here.
Hmm.
So, how did that perspective change and mold who you've become?
Well, I mean, I've seen prosperity and I've seen poverty in within the matter of miles,
Mhm.
and I've been to the different regions. You go to different regions in rural South, and then you have urban Northeast, and you see where different policies affect different places. You see what's working and what's not.
Right.
And my time as a police officer really gave me a very I'm very comfortable with dealing with people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, everything. So I mean, I can talk to and I can work with anybody. So wherever I go, I always ask people, working on the docks or at the truck stops, whatever. I'll just strike up a conversation and say, you know, how's it like around here?
Mhm.
And you know, and we talk about just just life,
Right.
and and the one common thing that I love about traveling about around the country is, it's all America.
Mhm.
Everybody has that in common, no matter
Yep.
what income you have, what skin color you have. We're all Americans. And I'll tell you, the racial divide that you hear about from the media these days, it's when you're talking to someone who, and you're both doing the same job, there's no racial divide. we
No.
I have always gotten along with everyone that I've worked with on the loading docks, in the steel mills, all that stuff. So it's I really do enjoy it. I have always said I love the traveling. I hate being gone from the family.
That's definitely got to be the most taxing on there. I mean,
It is.
but it does seem like you're going to find something taxing no matter what. As a cop,
Yep.
the concern is, will I come home tonight? That's
Yep.
priority one.
Yep.
When you're on the road all the time, it's inclement weather, and God, I kind of
Oh,
like these people. I wish I was hanging out with them, but responsibilities call.
yeah. Well,
Speaking about a calling, go ahead, please.
and I should go back. You know how you said you were when you were in the Marine Corps, you were stationed in Hawaii.
Yes.
10 out of my 12 years in law enforcement, I was actually the dare officer. So I was I was kind of on that end of it. If there was a station in Hawaii for law enforcement, that's kind of where I was too. So I did a few years of the night shift dangerous stuff, but the majority of it I was in the schools, hanging out with the kids and just having a blast.
Well, I think it's awesome because every role, and when I talk about like my service, it's not to necessarily minimize it, but I
Right.
don't
No.
inflate it.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I look at everybody, having particular roles, and I think, especially for law enforcement, especially these days, their presence in the public school system is not just needed, but I feel like
Hmm.
it's almost required, and
Yep.
that outreach to these young people is something that we have to go back to. I'm gonna say community oriented policing, but not
Yes.
in the sense that it was traditionally known,
Hmm.
but rather as in being open
Hmm.
and having dialogue with the community, which is something I think
Absolutely.
there's a lot of people that don't want to do that, but
Yep.
that's part of the problem that we're
What
dealing with today.
the worst thing that ever happened to law enforcement was the squad car.
Oh
You
yeah.
had the old in these rural areas you can't get away from it. But in these downtown areas, you had the beat cop walking the
Hmm.
beat. He knew every business owner. He knew every person on that street by name, their family, their kids, their parents.
Yep.
And when the squad car came in and it took the cop away from the people, it insulated him. And
We'll put that barrier up for sure.
yep.
Now, speaking of callings and things that we do, you're running for state senate.
Yes,
I
sir.
ask this question for everybody. Why? Why would you put yourself through this, man? I mean, and when I say this jokingly, because it's
Yep.
like you put your life on hold,
Yep.
literally.
Yep.
Your family sacrifices time. And when you think about this, somebody's taking your life and putting it under a microscope.
Huh.
And I think it takes somebody with a lot of gumption and a lot of like,
Hmm.
hey, if I don't do this, who else will?
Yeah.
What was kind of your calling, your wake up call to want to get involved in this process like that?
That's exactly what you just said. I got sick of saying someone needs to do something about fill in the blank. That was really what it is. What really activated me, I was always politically astute. You know,
Mhm.
I've been studying history and psychology and civics, the Constitution. I mean, I went when I was in college for law enforcement. I had constitutional law classes,
Yes.
so I had that background, and then I continued that education on with audiobooks. I mean, I'm just so you know, I am a habitual channel changer on the radio. So when you're behind the wheel for 11 hours straight, you got to find something that keeps your attention. So
Correct.
audiobooks, audiobooks, podcasts, the last 10 years,
Hmm.
10, 11 hours a day straight is what I've been doing. So I've always been politically astute. Um, but what really activated me was uh, and so many of these new candidates was the COVID situation. I
Certainly.
saw the erosion of rights and people just it wasn't that government was trying to take our rights because I mean they've done that on the left for forever. It's been happening for 150 years.
Right.
What really scared me was that because of the pandemic, people were just giving them away so freely.
Hmm.
And not everyone, you know, what really started me down my political path, activism path, I guess, was you remember when the mask mandate from executive order or emergency order from the governor was struck down by
Yes.
the Supreme Court. What they did was he went to the health departments of all the separate counties and tried to get the counties to pass their own
Correct.
mask mandates with penalties. That was the kicker, was the penalties too. Um, and we said, that's enough. We can do something. I live 3 miles from our courthouse. My wife and some friends of ours, we were able to get 300 people to the courthouse in Little Whitehall at 6 o'clock at night on December night.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, and we were able to get 700 signatures in 36 hours and 300 people at the courthouse. So we spoke, and when we were going into it, we heard that the county board, it's a 17-member county board. We heard that it was 6 or 7 or 5 or 6 in favor, and about that same many opposed, and then the rest were unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
When the vote came down after we got done speaking, it went the mandate was defeated 16-1.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that was how I got started, and literally a month later, I had my name on an open school board seat, and I ended up getting on the Whitehall School Board. So I've been on the Whitehall School Board for the last year and a half.
And so now you want to just add a little bit more to that for the
Yeah.
Senate seat.
Senate would be the next natural step, right?
Why not, right? So obviously getting in, having that type of impact in your community, I
Mm-hmm.
think there's just definitely a sense of gratification that would come along with that.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that with that gratification is that sense of accomplishment. It's like, hey, look what we did when we
Yeah.
banded together and we did it for a cause.
Correct.
So when you did that, obviously going on to the school board, that gets you more involved. You're talking to more people,
Mm-hmm.
um, making that leap now
Mm-hmm.
to state senate. What was the origin there, that got you to take that jump? Because when you think about it, a lot of people are been saying this election cycle, oh,
Yep.
the swamp in Madison. It's like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, can we stop using Donald Trump's words? Can we be more creative? Like
Right.
marsh?
Right.
But all jokes aside, now you're looking at getting into the weeds here in
Yeah.
Madison,
Yep.
which I would venture is going to be a little bit different than a school board.
Yep. Well, to be honest with you, I had heard that let me back up. We tried to do a Second Amendment sanctuary county bill here
Yes.
in Trempealeau County last summer. Yeah, last summer. And through that, I got to know my assemblyman quite well, Trig Pronjinski in the 92nd Assembly District, because he had the state Second Amendment sanctuary state bill. So when we did our Second Amendment sanctuary county bill, he helped us out. He spoke with us, and I got to know him, fairly well, and we got along great. And honestly, I heard a rumor that he was going to run for the Senate seat. So I thought, if he's going to do that, it makes sense to run for his assembly seat.
Right.
So I started talking to him, and he said, well, I've thought about it. I'm not gonna run. And my Senate district is made up of the 91st, 92nd, and 93rd. So
Mhm.
the 91st is the city of Eau Claire.
Right.
Jody Emerson, that's Democrat held, and it probably will always will be. Well, I mean, we're making some progress in Eau Claire, but it's slow.
Slowly but surely. Yep.
Yep. And then the only other Republican would be Warren Petrick in the 93rd. Both of those guys said, "No, we kind of like where we're at. We're sitting pretty good in the assembly." And Trig looked. I remember I was on the phone with him as I was driving across North Dakota, and I remember him saying, "Nah, I'm not going to run, but you should run." I thought, yeah, right.
Right.
But
like, what do I know?
yeah, exactly. Right. Who am I? I'm just this
Right.
guy that's brand new. But you know what? When I got to looking at the district, and the district is mostly rural. There's the city of Eau Claire, and now there's the city of River Falls, but the rest of it is rural. I mean, that's where I grew up.
Right.
Those are my people. That's who
Totally.
I am. And it was one of those things where, okay, I've been talking a big game for a long time. I've been active for the last year and a half. Um, I think my experiences really give me a unique opportunity to bring some real world experience down to Madison in
Mhm.
so many different sectors, like
Yes.
private sector, public sector, agriculture, law enforcement, and I have a pretty good handle on the issues. So I said, why not? I talked to my wife, and we talked about it for a long time, and we prayed on it for a long time, and we just said, I think this is what we need to do, and it's been unbelievable ever since. The doors are just opening wide open. This is
Mhm.
definitely the path that I was meant to be on.
Well, I'll tell you, your wife is definitely one of your biggest advocates because
Yes, sir.
like I mean, a couple weeks ago, she hit me up on Messenger and she was like, "Hey, you ought to have Dave on your show." Okay, cool. Well, let me tell you about him. And so we're having a conversation back and forth. Like, well, have him give me a call.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. I mean, for me, it's all about the conversation. It's all about building that
Yep.
relationship, getting the information out to the people.
Yep.
And I'm so glad that she did
I am too.
because as we talk about, these various things of your background, I can't help but think in my head here that there's so much correlation. You got the law and
Hmm.
order side of things.
Yep.
God knows we need that. I mean, we really need strong representation within the state because we look at what the cancers that are happening in Milwaukee,
Yep.
it's certainly metastasizing to the rest of the state.
Hmm.
Your trucking experience and being a business owner
Hmm.
gives you the insight not only on supply chain, but the economy,
Yep.
agriculture, the manufacturing. And to
Exactly.
me, these are all important issues. Over the last couple of years, what have you seen the impact for just in general from your experiences?
Um, in which sector? I mean, we
Take
covered
your
a lot there.
pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like
So
literally, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, inflation. You know,
Mhm.
I was paying a year and a half ago. I was paying what, 2.30 a gallon for diesel fuel.
You're right.
Now it's over $5. I right now I have 5 trucks. I have 5 semi trucks. 4 of them are on the road. One of them is in the shop because it needed an overhaul. And guess what? There's no parts available. It's been
Right.
down for 3 months. It's been down. So so that is directly related to the supply chain.
Mhm.
I'm very in tune with how the supply chain works and the failures and the weaknesses. And what we're seeing now is the ripple effect of shutting everything down and paying people to stay home. It
Correct.
is it is completely man-made. Now, I'm not saying the virus was man-made. All of the issues that we have now, as regards to inflation,
Yep.
supply chain issues, 100% government caused. 100%. Um, so anyway, my 4 trucks on the road now paying over $5 a gallon. I'm spending $10,000 to $12,000 per week in
Wow.
diesel fuel. So it's literally doubled. Literally doubled. Now that cost goes somewhere. That cost, everything that you have on the store shelves
Mhm.
has been touched, has been on the trailer of a truck at least once, if not 4 or 5 times. So
Correct.
all of that diesel fuel, all that money that's being spent more on diesel fuel is getting passed right down. That's where all of the increases on the store shelves are coming from. On
Well, it's my understanding too that with a lot of the independent owner operators that are bidding for some of these jobs,
Mhm.
they seem to be getting undercut quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Is there accuracy in that?
Oh, absolutely. The thing about undercutting though is it can only last for so long.
Mhm.
You can only undercut for so long before you stop making money, and then go out of business.
Correct.
So What I've been hearing now is that I have flatbeds. I run flatbed trucks, so we do a lot of steel, machinery. We're big in the on the raw materials manufacturing side.
Okay.
So the nice thing about being in flatbeds is we don't have the big peaks and valleys. Ours are a little more flattened out. We've flattened the
Mhm.
curve in the flatbed industry. Um,
Somebody had to.
so we
We
don't
needed
have those
hope
big
somewhere.
swings.
That's all I'm saying there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, dry van and refrigerated trailers, their rates have cut, and the fuel prices have not come down. So
No.
those companies are going out of business left and right. Last year it was almost impossible to find a driver
Hmm.
because rates were high. Even though diesel fuel was on its way up, rates were through the roof. Everybody was making money. Now I have 4 or 5 drivers that are just begging for a job because their
Right.
company has gone out of business. And if trucks go out of business, we don't eat.
Well, and that's the hard lesson there is that one, people don't understand the importance of the driver, the truck driver, and how your
Hmm.
stuff gets there. It's not just magical; it doesn't just pop up on the
Hmm.
shelves overnight,
Hmm.
and there's a cost associated with that. To your
Yep.
point, if you take a look at gas right now, everyone's clamoring on how, oh man, it's below $4.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I wouldn't be celebrating just yet.
No kidding.
But have you looked at diesel? You
Yeah.
notice that the needle has not moved.
Yep. That's
I was at
exactly right.
Walmart last week, and the running joke over here is I love chicken, which I do probably more than most people.
I mean, who doesn't really?
And fried chicken, marinade. I mean, the whole bit.
Ooh.
Thing is, though, when we went to the store last week, what was normally $8, $9 was $14.
Hmm.
Oh, there's your cost right there,
That's exactly right.
and we're seeing it across the board.
Hmm.
Now, let's go into now. You don't have a primary opponent.
I don't.
So the possibility of you winning this is fairly high.
It is. It is fairly high. And not only is this a good cycle,
Hmm.
this district has also changed from I think in 2018, it was a Democrat heavy district by about 2%.
Correct.
Now, at worst, it's even.
And for Democrats, that's never a good thing.
No, no, because they can't come at us head to head. Our ideas are better.
Well, our ideas are far better. And, when you take a look at the independent voters, they generally tend to break right.
Exactly.
Now, should you become senator, what are some of your ideas? Because we're going to look at your platform.
Hmm.
One of the things you talk about at great length, and I really, really like this, is the idea of free markets.
Yes.
And I've talked to many different people, both in office and potentially, seeking it. I ask this because there are certain things we can't protect against.
Yep.
The devaluation of our dollar with the constant printing by the Federal Reserve.
Yep.
There's nothing we can do on a state level.
Nope.
What are some things, though, that we can do to help protect and insulate the people of Wisconsin?
Well, the biggest thing is to take the government regulatory boot off of the throats of small businesses or all businesses.
Mhm.
You know, why does somebody need a license to cut hair? That license and that fee, that is a barrier to entry into the marketplace. So removing those barriers where appropriate and necessary,
Mhm.
that is priority one on the regulatory side, right? We have got to make it easier for people to start businesses. And I'll tell you what, one of the biggest things in our area right now is daycare. We don't have
Yes.
any daycare centers. And in-home daycares are dwindling. The mom will do my wife did in-home daycare for many years when my daughters were too young to go to school.
Mhm.
As soon as my daughters went to school, she was done doing daycare and she started volunteering at the school. Now she actually works as a paraprofessional at the school. So
Okay.
so um, you know, in-home daycares are it's about the only thing that we have around here, and it's because daycare centers they have so many regulations that it is literally cost prohibitive. You
Mhm.
cannot run a daycare center and make money in our area because the amount you would have to charge to make it worthwhile running the daycare center is more than anyone can afford.
Correct.
So, um, reducing some of those regulations on daycare centers would be an absolute boom to the economy
Mhm.
because and you know most parents can pretty easily figure out which places are a good place to go to and which places are not.
Correct.
We don't need a state I don't need a state government official, a bureaucrat telling me which place is safe for my daughters.
Mhm.
I don't. I can figure that out for myself, and I think everybody can.
Right.
You know, and then that would free up the the parents to go to work, go to enter the economy. I mean, something like that would be huge, a huge boom for these times.
Well, you mentioned, with daycare and obviously with somebody cutting hair, for example. And I think I mentioned this to you when we first talked. I've always been just blown away by the fact that it actually takes more hours to be certified as a barber than it does an EMT.
Isn't that crazy?
That is just
It's ridiculous.
say I'll go to Walmart and give me a $15 wall and I can do the job here and I'm good.
Hey,
I
I
I need the person who's gonna like give me CPR to know what they're doing. Like,
yeah, I cut this myself.
right. Clearly, I've done mine.
Yeah.
Not much to it, but other issues on your platform, though, and again, these are to me,
Hmm.
they're simple, concise, to the point. You
Exactly.
talk about individual liberty,
Yep.
peace, and tolerance.
I know.
Um, limited government, which you talked upon. Free
Hmm.
markets.
Hmm.
Let's move to that tolerance portion of it because
Hmm.
it is an interesting world that we live in.
Hmm.
The left have become so incredibly radicalized; it is militant.
Yeah.
And if they don't get their way, it's gaslighting. You're phobic of X, Y, and Z, and everything else.
Hmm.
Whereas I find a lot of people on the right are just kind of like, oh, you do you.
That's exactly right.
So when you
The,
talk about that tolerance, go ahead with that.
yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned the left. It just seems like the loudest voices for tolerance are the most intolerant people.
Hmm.
You know, um, so I'm I don't care what somebody does, two consenting adults do in their own time, or how what daycare a parent chooses to go to.
Right.
That's it's that's what I mean by tolerance is letting people make their own decisions and being okay with their own decisions. Individual liberty as well falls into that.
Hmm.
Um, you know, you have the liberty to succeed and the freedom to, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody fails at some points. And
Correct.
that's where the community, not the government, needs to be there to help them along. But the government these days is crushing the community, and the only alternative is to be helped out by government. It's time to switch that back.
How do we do that? Because I think it's an interesting part there. Let me do something real quick here. I think that's something interesting because I feel like people, and I live in a very rural area too.
Hmm.
And one of the downsides, I think, to being a conservative is we're so incredibly individualistic. We don't necessarily know how to work together.
Hmm.
More importantly, there's a, how would I put it? Being open enough to say, hey, let's work together. Let's do these things here.
Hmm.
How do we build community like that in addition to doing it, say, with somebody who's left of center, who might
Yeah.
not necessarily want to build with you?
Right. Here's the thing. You've heard the analogy of the bird, right? The bird has to have two wings to fly.
Yes.
The right wing and left wing. The thing is, the way it used to be in the past is that bird was always traveling in the same direction. It
Mhm.
it might want to go a little bit one way or the other, but it had the same goals and it had the same values.
Right.
Today, they want to go opposite, and that's just going to kill the bird. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
It's gonna
that's what
rip
we
it
need to
apart.
get. Yeah, it's going to rip it apart. And that's what it's doing. We don't have the same values. We don't have the same goals as a country anymore, as a community.
Right.
And you can't. I've I was helping a lot of local candidates this year, and in the spring elections, and I'm fond of saying you can't change your country until you change your countryside. You have to start small.
Yes.
You have to start local. You have to, you know, become a member of the Lions Club and be part of that community. Be part of the church.
Mhm.
And if that's not your thing, find something else. Like I said, the Lions Club or
Right.
the Rotary Club, whatever. But be part of that community, and if you and have the same values, American values.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I think it's interesting because that's something I remember Ron Johnson saying very recently was that we need to start looking not so much from top down, but on the local level,
Hmm.
be it your town, your village, your city, however you need to do it. But if you're looking to change things, you have to start from the ground up,
Yep.
not so much top down. Because a lot of people don't seem to realize that all politics is local.
It is.
And for most people, you don't have access to senatorial candidates or assemblymen or governor, lieutenant governor.
No.
So that's where it gets very difficult, I think.
Yep.
So getting more involved into the community, I think going back to something you had done earlier,
Hmm.
getting those, 700 people to sign, getting those 300 people to show up,
Hmm.
that probably did more to engage with the community. And I think probably gave you a good, idea of what you could do.
Hmm.
To that end, what's been kind of your reception that you've gotten as you've toured the whole senatorial district there of the 91st to the 93rd?
Oh, it's been great. Um, I tell my story, and everyone is just, wow, that is, you know that's great. They love the background. They love being the police officer and the business owner. Um, and there are great communities out there.
Mm.
I'm not very well known on the western side of the district, but when I talk to them, it's like talking to you.
Right.
It's just welcoming, and it is absolutely amazing. No matter what happens in this race, this has been one of the best things that I've done. Just meeting all of these people, and figuring out that there are so many supporters of freedom out there.
Hmm.
You know, and some of them, believe it or not, don't have an R behind their name. You know,
That's true.
exactly. And it's just great to meet all of them.
I'll tell you, I think for myself, and I've had the opportunity to go to a lot of different events. Was just at our first, Republican convention, and then of course doing these podcasts. For me, it's been very humbling experience to the extent that, man, you get to talk to these people, hear what they have to say, and there have been people that have been strong right. There have been people that are more moderate. Some people even on the left and libertarian.
Hmm.
Finding the commonality, I think, is almost key going forward. It's going to be
Hmm.
a Herculean task, in my opinion.
Hmm.
But in doing so, how would you build those relationships with other assemblymen, both on the left and the right, or other senators, once you get there? And I would assume you probably have to work with both too.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. So one thing that I try to do in every conversation is find something that we have in common. And when you do that, you can build on top of that. You can build a rapport. I used to, when I was a police officer, I had to be able to talk to everybody, right?
Mhm.
I had to be able to build a rapport with some of the worst people in the world because
Correct.
I needed them to tell me what happened, right? So, um, I have that experience where I can absolutely work with anybody, and then bring them to see my perspective. That's the other thing
Mhm.
about being a law enforcement officer is I have to see things from when I'm investigating, an altercation between like a domestic disturbance. I
Yep.
have to see things from both perspectives because somewhere in the middle is the truth. Okay.
Correct.
So I have been very good, and I've done this for years of seeing things from all different angles, understanding how that other person feels, and then explaining my perspective to them and bringing them over. I say I can work with anyone. Good solutions could come from anywhere. So I
Correct.
don't discount anyone's opinions or ideas. Um, but if I think I have the better solution, I'm not going to, or if something that somebody else is trying to propose or something, I'm not going to work with them just for the sake of working with them.
Right.
But if they have the same values and their solution aligns with my principles of individual liberty, limited government, peace, tolerance, and free markets, absolutely,
Right.
we'll then I'll work with them on that.
Well, it kind of reminds me of back in when was this year? I want to say like around 2012, when when the assembly passed carry conceal.
Hmm.
A lot of people are saying, well, why did we do constitutional carry? Because nobody was really asking for that other than the hardcore gun enthusiasts.
Right.
We were just happy to carry conceal.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating because that was an idea sponsored by both Republican and Democrat.
Hmm.
And again, what's the common ground? Second
Yeah.
Amendment, protect our lives, protect our property, protect, people around us.
Exactly.
Um, it's kind of a big deal.
Yep.
So yeah, that relationship building, I think, is the key to everything.
Hmm.
An old professor from many, many moons back had said at one time, politics was the art of the possible.
Hmm.
Should you be elected as a state senator, what would you like to see not just become possible, but attainable?
Um, you know, I would like to see an attitude shift along the lines of what I laid out with the principles of
Yes.
limited government. We need to get back to a culture of self-reliance.
Hmm.
I listen to the noise. You hear all the noise about what is government. Something, there's a problem. What is government going to do to fix it? That's we have to get away from that. We
Right.
have to think. We have to get back to a mindset of how am I going to fix it? And as a legislator, my mindset is how can I get out of the way to let people succeed
Right.
on their own? Not there. There's no nothing. Government will not make you successful ever. It,
No. Oh, go ahead, please.
yeah, no. It was just coming back to you have to do that on your own. So
Well, I think, there's certainly a role for government to the extent that you want to have a even start.
yeah,
You want to have the
yes,
playing field to be fair. So to that end, a
yes,
certain degree of regulation certainly does make sense, but
ex-
to
e-
have it so
exactly.
burdensome.
Yes, it's the over regulation that has to come back.
Right.
Government has constitutional responsibilities.
Hmm.
You know, roads, roads and utilities, that sort of things.
Right.
You have to do that as a government. And in our rural areas, we are forgotten about down here. You
Quite a
know,
bit.
in these outstates. And I'll tell you, I feel it in my truck. I mean,
Hmm.
my truck has to be inspected to be roadworthy every year, but the roads are not necessarily truckworthy in some areas out here.
I
So
don't even think they're car worthy, to be honest with you. But that's just my take as I'm taking my little Kia Soul here, and
yeah,
and I'm feeling it. But I can only imagine, you're sitting up there, 10 feet up there, and yeah, it's
exactly.
certainly
So things that are constitutionally mandated by the or that are mandated for the state to do, I will fight for every penny of
right,
of road funding that we can get up here because we need it desperately.
right,
But the overregulation stuff, that kind of stuff that has to get cut out, and then we can get back to an individual success
right.
mentality.
You know what Reagan said? You know, the nine most terrifying words is, "Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you."
That's exactly right.
Oh man, our guest tonight has been Dave Estenson, and if you want to check out his website's right down there. It's been scrolling the whole episode. You want to check him out, Dave for Wisconsin or Dave for FORWI.com. Make sure you check it out because I follow a lot of people on Facebook, and I've been seeing them out there hitting up rodeos, hitting up parades, rocking the cowboy hat that he's had for the last 2.5 decades. That's pretty strong. I'm not gonna lie. You had me jealous. Like I'm. Can I rock one? No, you got to ride a bull. No, I'm gonna take a pass. Then I'm good.
I'll tell you what, anybody can be a cowboy. You just have to let your yes be yes and let your no be no. Chris Ledoux said that, one of my heroes. So
Oh, you
you
mean actually act with honor?
exactly. So you can absolutely rock the cowboy hat. That's the
That that'll
integrity.
be it. That'll be an interesting one. I don't know how that would look, but so to close it out here, I want to give you the last couple minutes because I'd like to, the messages and everything. We want to make sure we get that out. We want to have a good time with these conversations. But the most important thing is we have August 9th. Obviously, you don't have a primary opponent, but you know what? You got to be in full gear from now up until the general.
Yep,
And November will be here before we know it. God, I can't believe I said that.
I
November,
know.
that means snow and
Let's not think about that part of it. Let's just think
before
about victory.
See, and that's really what it has to be,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, we can't afford 4 more years to Tony Evers, and we cannot afford to lose the Assembly nor the Senate. Dave, I'm gonna hand it to you. Go ahead, please.
Well, I appreciate it, and I want to thank everybody out there for listening and watching, and this great opportunity to serve the 31st Senate District. Um, we went through my background. I have been blue collar. I have been rural, small town. I have the experience and the knowledge to fight for the common man and to fight for freedom, and that's really what I'm going down to do, and I am excited to do it. I am working hard. We are pounding the highways. We are pounding the doors. We are out there meeting the people, and we're just going to continue that all the way to November, and it's going to be a glorious thing. So that's just in wrapping it up. I appreciate everybody, and thank you so much, Ed, for having me.
No, and I can't thank you enough for being a part of the show. I always have an eternal debt of gratitude for yourself and other candidates because I understand your guys' time is valuable. So for you to give up an hour of your time to have these conversations, I hope that we can provide that service and, like I said, getting your message out there, pounding the pavement, and hopefully add to what it is you guys are doing. Because I look across the state, I have met so many candidates, and I can't help but look and be thankful that we have such a wide array, such a deep bench of conservative activists, candidates coming up here from the grassroots. And I think this is a very good sign of things to come. I know it's been a
Absolutely.
contentious election cycle, but really at the end of the day, I think all of us would be remiss if we didn't say, we didn't want to have a conservative renaissance here in Wisconsin. So, Dave, thank you again. I really appreciate your time, sir. If there's
Yes,
anything I can do for you in the future, please reach out to me.
absolutely, and I'm happy to do it anytime.
All right, my friend. Thank you
All right.
so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys. That was Dave Estenson. He was a guest here tonight. Awesome conversation as always. And like I said, we could probably rock this like another 2, 3 hours. Like seriously. Great conversation though. So guys, make sure you check out his website. It's right down there. Day4WI. That's FORWI.com. If you want to learn more about him, you want to volunteer, donate, help out. This general election is going to be here before you guys know it. So on that note, I want to thank you guys for joining in here. Please make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, and hit that YouTube channel there. And of course, good night. God bless you. God bless the great state of Wisconsin. I'll talk to you guys later.